which was good enough.
Sorry.
Which was good enough.
What arc? How many arc seconds?
0.7 arc seconds. That's good enough. I mean, I'd like to get to 0.5, but it depends a little bit on the seeing and so on. And for the first time, it was not bad. And definitely the stars were. I mean, you've got this view which looks like a bullseye, and it shows you where where the errors are. That was much tighter than it used to be. And I think I can improve it because most of the error was in RA. I forgot to counterbalance it. So if I counterbalance the amount, then I would probably get to 0.5 arc seconds. So that's good.
How bad was your balance?
How bad was my balance? Well, if the balance is good, then that means that it's going to bounce back and forth in RA. So a good balance is actually bad in that way. So if you counterbalance it, you have to just counterbalance it enough that it doesn't bounce around. That's all that you have to do. And I forgot to do that because it's been a while. But yeah, it's looking good in first instance. So yeah, happy about that.
Very good. Very good.
And yeah, I do have to do something about the cables. I have these connections to the motor. So the on-step has its own pins in the Arduino, and that goes to it goes to an Ethernet connector, and then there's an Ethernet cable in there that goes to the mount, an Ethernet connector, and that's all a little bit flimsy because sometimes they're not quite tight. I wonder if I should use different cables because sometimes they're loose, and then you can tell, you can, and then yeah, you don't want that to happen.
Do they use an Ethernet cable, kind of a connector to pop in, or?
Yes, an RJ, what is it? RJ
45.
Yeah, yeah. So it's convenient, I had those cables, and that's why I did it. But the connection is not super duper. So
you're not carrying any current across those wires at all, or?
Well, yeah, sure. And
pretty small wires. Was it 22 gauge, 24 gauge? Right.
So how much would it be? Like 0.7 amps or so at how many volts? I'm not sure exactly. Well, it's a 12 volt motor, but yeah, I don't know exactly how you measure the voltage that goes across. I guess I could just use a voltmeter, but there's this reference voltage that you have to set to a certain value in order to not overheat the. So that's in the drivers. The driver has a little screw on it, and you have to turn that until that reference voltage is good enough. There are formulas that you can use, and anyway, those are all things that matter. But yeah, I'm glad that that it works. I can slew at 1 degree per second, which is not super, but that's okay. I can live with that. That's just a consequence of using a belt. It has to run faster, and there are limitations to what it can do. So yeah.
Good evening, Dick, Tim. Good to see you.
Hi.
Good.
And I also took an image of the wizard, but it was kind of, I didn't use the filter, so, and I'd never tried the wizard before.
What's the wizard? What is the wizard?
It's a nebula.
It's a emission nebula, reflection nebula. I don't know, probably a reflection.
Actually, no, I think it's primarily emission.
Yeah.
Hydrogen alpha emission nebula. So
yeah,
I've never heard of that either.
Yeah, so with just regular unfiltered system, then the whole thing is drowning in stars. So
there's a lot of stars in that field. There's
yes,
no question about it. Yeah.
Everybody does that in narrow band, and so that's what I need to get to. So that was a bit of a waste.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's the one.
Looks like a big
clam.
And this picture, go ahead.
Now is that one that you did?
No.
Okay, yeah. Wow, it's gonna go. Geez, I got some competition, man.
This is Wikipedia.
Pretty. Yeah.
This is
a highly praised object.
It's good quality for Wikipedia. Usually, you don't have good quality images on some of the things, but
yeah.
You use a hydrogen alpha, an oxygen 3. What's a sulfur 2 filter?
Yeah,
using the
standard RG. Yeah, standard narrow band.
It's a Hubble palette though, so that's not a. It's not a visual palette. It's a Hubble palette. That's
What does that mean? Does that mean it's taken in infrared or something, or?
No, each of the colors define what filter, kind of show you what filter that you're using. So a filter, if you're looking at hydrogen alpha, for example, maybe it's red. You can make it anything you want, but the Hubble palette corresponds to certain colors. You'd have to look it up to see what it is. But what you're doing is you're assigning colors to each one of those filters so that you can kind of go through it and figure out what's going on.
Pole Master Imaging Camera, ZWO, 1600 mm, 10 hours, 10.8 hours.
Oh yeah, that's a lot of, all that narrowband stuff takes a lot of time, man. And then
Yeah.
you've got to combine all the colors, see?
I know. Yeah.
So everything is basically starts out as monochrome, and then you have to assign each of those colors, and that's where this Hubble palette comes into play. So
Yeah, 63-minute photos put
Yeah.
together.
And so that's taken over multiple nights probably, and so
Oh,
that's when you
gosh,
need an
yeah.
observatory, so you don't have to move anything anymore. So
Mhm.
for
Yeah, you
people
can-
like us, it's kind of difficult.
yeah, you can go across the lunar cycles and everything.
Yeah.
Is that the guy that did it? Oh, that's I see. What is
Oh,
that?
the tadpoles.
Yeah, the tadpoles. Yeah, next to the flaming star.
Yeah.
Trying to see if there's something about the Hubble palette here. Narrowband.
You can
imaging.
look it up. I would Google it. You can find it, and it'll tell you what each of the colors, assigned colors, are. I don't, off the top of my head, I don't remember what. There you are. There you are.
Here it is. Hubble space. So it says typically using following color associations for each filter: sulfur is
Yeah.
red, hydrogen green, and oxygen blue.
Hmm.
Huh.
Yeah. Usually with the Hubble palette, you see a lot of brown, yellowish, and blue. Not really.
What is
much-
the S2? Is that a silicon 2?
No, sulfur.
Sulfur. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, those are the three most common colors that you find generally in the heavens. Usually hydrogen alpha is most common. So, and then you have your reflection nebula stuff too. So that could be anything. It's going to be blue, but it's going to be, from any light. That one there looks like the bubble. That's the
Yep.
bubble. Yeah, that's a Wolf Rayet.
Now, how would you go about imaging the Pleiades?
Well, it's not that hard. I mean, I've done it. I can get it with my 10-inch. That's about 1,000 millimeters. So you're going to want to have, I guess where I'm getting at is you could do it with 1,000 millimeters or less is what I would say.
You got to have a real wide field, right?
That's about you're not going to be able to do it. Let's say if you had a C11 or something like that. What is that, about 2,000 millimeters? That's not going to cover it unless you mosaic it.
Yeah.
Let's see, what else can I say about it? It's
What do you
primarily,
do for the reflection nebula in there?
nothing really special per se, I don't think. The biggest problem is masking out the overwhelming brightness of the main 7 sisters that make up the Pleiades. And so you've got to kind of, have some pretty good masking there to get those stars down to a size where they're not just dominating. It's actually not that hard to get, the Pleiades. You can do pretty well with it. And it's really very rewarding one too.
Yeah.
You've got lots of different, I like the way that the structure is with the kind of lines and so forth that go through it. So.
What's that? Oh, that's the hydrogen alpha filter.
Yep.
Oh, that looks like it almost looks like a clip-in.
Yeah, it is. I think
Oh,
it
it's
is.
a clip-in. Yeah, it's a clip-in. Yeah, I can't use clip-ins in my camera. 6D MK2 won't allow. So that's one disadvantage of that.
Now,
camera.
this is not the same as a solar filter here. This is a different filter.
Well, let's see, what has he got there? He's got, that's hydrogen alpha, yeah. Now, I don't know about that. That's a very good question, Tim, because hydrogen alpha is used in solar filtering too. So
Yeah.
it's quite possible. I don't know enough to tell you, would you want to use that for solar too? And I couldn't
I
tell
don't
you.
think so. I
No,
think,
I think you're going to
bypass-
want to get something that's more specialized for it.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
bypass of this, going to be way too much.
Yeah.
That's those solar filters. Oh my God, they only let in like, I think it's less than 1% of the light. Way less.
Yeah, I don't think it would work. I think
Yeah.
you're right. It's too much. It'll let in too much.
Well, I don't
Yeah.
know about that. I mean, a typical our Lunt refractor, it's a lens, and it's got some sort of coating on it to only allow a certain the hydrogen alpha to come through, but it's a glass with a certain coating on it. I don't know if it'd be the same amount of coating. And
Yeah, that's what I don't know either. I don't have.
I'll try
well,
to find
yeah, it's got to be more coating. It's got to be thicker to block.
I would think it would
For
have.
for solar, you want the lens on the outside. You never want to let the solar light go through the scope and then.
Oh,
hit
yeah.
the- That
I'm
would be
just-
a big mistake.
I'm
Yeah,
just
you would
saying that
never want to use a clip. Yeah, you're absolutely right. You'd have to put it over the primary objective.
Yeah.
Well,
like the Lunt does. Somehow they have that echelon in there that I don't know how that tweaks things so that it only allows a certain fraction of light come through. It's kind of tuning what kind of light's coming through. Anyway, so yeah, filtering and the Hubble Palette.
Hello.
Hello,
Hi,
Jerry.
everybody.
Jerry?
Hi.
So we started with what the Wizard Nebula was,
The Wizard Nebula. Huh?
and trying to figure out what the Hubble Palette meant,
Oh,
and then found a good website. The guy trying to explain it all.
hmm
Fixing purple stars. I guess that's not chroma. What do you call that? Chroma problems. Something else. That's what makes stars purple if it's not the.
color balance is off.
Yeah, white balance.
Unless you like purple stars.
Yeah, it often happens if you use the Hubble palette. But some people mix it in with RGB, so you can take the stars in RGB because the stars are usually much brighter,
Mhm.
and just mix it in with what you have.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Hubble
Jerry,
is
we
not
were-
Hubble is not made to take pretty pictures like we do for hobbies. So it doesn't take them in RGB. It has very specific color channels that align with chemicals they want to look at. So you have to, for example, make a green channel out of something that you see if you want to do an RGB. There's a
Jerry,
guy.
we were
Yeah, go ahead.
asking about the hydrogen alpha filter that was a clip-on that they were using for the the Hubble. There's that little filter there.
Oh, I just looked at that. There's that place also makes a they claim a very effective light pollution filter.
Now that wouldn't work for solar, correct?
Oh, solar, no, it's for night sky. The
Yeah.
H alpha filter is for night sky too. That's not solar.
Okay.
What's
Okay.
what's the difference in the filtering that say the Lunt puts on its glass lenses compared to a filter like this on a camera?
Well, the Lunt stuff. First of all, the Lunt solar telescopes have a interferometer in it, a multi-plate. I forget the exact name for it.
Etalon.
Etalon, thank you. And Etalon, and the spacing of the lines is what picks out the sharp spectral region you want to look at, but it does it periodically. So there's a whole bunch of H alpha and then a whole bunch of harmonics of it. And so these other filters that they have on the front and the back of the scope are to get rid of all the other things and just look at the one H alpha band that gets through that is constructed.
Oh, wow.
So if this one is H alpha for a dark sky, and
Yeah.
if you put solar on that, it'll just burn that right through you'll have a hole in the filter.
It's too much throughput, right? There's way too much throughput.
Yeah. it's made to pick out what you see here. These are hydrogen alpha pictures taken probably with that filter. You can take hydrogen alpha pictures very well in heavily polluted skies.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because you can't even see what it is you're taking, but you get real clear, deep photographs.
And the point spread on the stars is phenomenally small too. It's very, very tight.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm gonna have to start with the moon. I was conversing with Henk this week about, you know, the on step, and I'm still looking at it, and I sent Tom a link. Well, maybe we'll look at it later, but not right now. I think what I'm going to do is start with simple stuff. The moon.
You know, there's a real interesting picture of the moon that you can take that's become very popular lately. And that is to just take a regular picture of the moon, but then enhance it for the very, very faint colorations that there are on the moon. You can actually determine composition of some of the regions of the moon based on its color. And
Hi, Mike.
We showed one a few weeks ago on the Monday morning podcast, a picture of the moon. I think it was first quarter or last quarter. And I picked one that was where the colors had been super enhanced in processing.
I think I remember that.
Yeah.
So you take the picture and then you work on filtering it to bring out the colors.
Yeah, you basically split it into RBG and stuff and each one.
Okay.
You bring up the saturation level or the hue. I guess it's saturation.
I'll have to send you a picture, Tom, sometime. I looked up this picture I have of the moon that I took, I believe, at the museum. At least it said October 8th, 2014. And I really think I took it through my 10-inch with a, oh yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that's the picture of the moon that I
that's
picked
cool.
out. Yeah.
Sweet. So clear. Now, is that a stat thing, or what did they do to?
I don't know the details on that. I know that it's just
That's
you isolate the channels and then you run the saturation way up on it. So
color saturation. Okay.
yeah.
You probably run the contrast up too.
Yeah.
Just a bit.
It looks
I don't know.
really clear.
Yeah, I hadn't tried this one. This is taken, I think, with a fairly large telescope. It's very clear, or it was taken at high altitude.
Yeah, very, very clear.
This image looks flipped to me.
It probably is.
Because I see the triplet right in the middle of the screen, that Theophilus and Alphonsus Arzaco. I think that's
Yeah,
them.
Clavius is down at the bottom. When I look at it, it's up at the top.
The sword too. I see the sword.
You can.
Well, it looks like this guy just off the Terminator is looking. I don't know. Maybe that's not it, but it's usually at the top and it's on the bottom on this guy.
Right.
So
You don't think is that Tycho right there?
Yeah, I think so.
So Tycho's on the bottom, right?
There it is. So the
This would be third quarter.
claim can be made that this is how it actually looks to the naked eye, and we're all used to the telescope view, which is flipped.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's a possibility.
And those are the Apennines that you're seeing the tips right there.
Oh,
Don't
the
know.
Apennines, the lunar
Yeah.
Apennines.
Apennine Mountains, I think.
Mm-hmm.
That's neat.
That's neat. You can just see the tips of them.
So does anybody have something they wanted to present this evening?
I have a little show and tell.
Oh, cool.
All right, you're on.
Okay. Got my new camera
Okay.
installed, and I got the software working, which for some people is a pain. So tonight is going to be my first light night, but we actually had some decent weather to take some images, and I was using my L-Pro enhanced filtered. One of the objects I've been really wanting to get was the elephant trunk, and for the longest time, the skies have been really dirty, and I guess I was using the wrong filter or not using the filter at all. So if I can share, I'll try and hold on a second here before I do a share.
Did you say ioptron, Mike?
No, it's a QHY. Did I say ioptron?
I
And
I don't know.
the doggone camera came in an ioptron box,
Oh,
but it was QHY on the inside. Well, you know, because I guess they're thick as thieves, you know, over there, and they all kind of work for the same place.
Hey, Mike, we're getting a lot of fan noise. Is that from you?
your volume is real high. Your volume is really high.
My volume's real high. Oh, you know what? I'm getting my laptop fan. Okay.
Oh, that's what you did.
Yeah, I'm in a small cubby hole here. Let me take this out just a little bit, and let me get to the my latest pictures. So I was. Bear with me for a second.
Got to get those solid state hard drives. The laptop.
Oh, well, it's not, well, no, it is solid state. It's just that the processor generates a lot of heat. Okay. So, hold on a second. Escape. Let me go into a share now with the other screen. Okay, so this is my wide angle of the elephant trunk with the Migras fluorite. This took about 3 hours worth of integrations of 10-minute exposures. Can you see it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay, so what hold a second here. Hold a second, let me just jump out of here and find the other one that goes with it. That's probably not here. Hold a second here. Let me bring up my email. You go on, I'll go find I'll stop sharing and get the other image too, because
Your speaker, your volume on your microphone is real high.
it is
Yeah,
high.
yeah.
Oh, you know why? Because I'm in a dome and everything's getting reflected back into the microphone.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so I'll start whispering, and let me see where Sept. I'm not sure if you
So Hank, why
Okay.
did we start talking about the Wizard Nebula? Why were we talking about the Wizard Nebula? I can't remember. You're muted, Hank.
Hank was shooting it. He was shooting it. I'll show you mine. That's mine there.
Hank, you're muted, just to let you know.
You know, the stars, there is a lot of stars in that image. And,
Oh, yeah, cool.
That it's primarily, I would say, hydrogen alpha. That was taken with the 10-inch astrograph. It's 1,000 millimeter focal length. Those are 6-minute exposures, ISO 800. So that's what I did with that guy right there.
Was that unfiltered or RGB? Or
The only filter that I put on there was moon and sky glow. Here you go.
I'll get off.
That.
All right. Is anybody sharing the screen now?
I'm not right now. I can if you want me to, but
I hear that
I
noise
would have
again.
you do your thing. Ready?
Okay, here's the close-up that I did. This was with the C11 on with a 0.63 focal reducer. This only took a half hour's worth of integration, so it's kind of noisy. But one of the things I noticed with the C11 is that it tends to give much softer images than the other. I think maybe the optics aren't up to snuff of the refractor, but it always seems like the stars are much they're a lot more bloated. So. So last night we had a star party with my club. A lot of people don't like going inside a room to meet, so we went to a site on the golf course, and I was finally able to use the 14.5-inch scope that I made, and it actually seemed to work pretty well if I could find the stars. There's still a lot of light pollution here, but M13, it was just a gazillion stars in the cluster. Instead of just a fuzz ball with only a few stars at the edges, there were stars all the way across. So I was, pretty happy the way that it worked. So the next thing for me to do is to somehow put some digital studying circles on, so I can find things. I could even find Delphinius or any of the other stuff that was just too bright for me to see the stars up there. I don't know if you guys have the same problem.
Tom Totten uses a really interesting, when we're out doing outreach, he has an interesting technique where he shines a laser in the eyepiece, and then it shows where the scope is actually pointing.
Oh, wow.
And I don't seem to have the dexterity to do that as well as he does, but that's a quick way of telling where you are.
That's neat.
It's always fun when the laser beams back in your eyes.
Well, don't do that.
Use an eye cup.
Yeah.
But it was just too bright to see any of the anything like third magnitude stars or anything like that. Once you're on the object, you can really see it easily in the scope, but it was, the skies aren't so clear here in the San Joaquin Valley.
Well, they're not very clear here either. We're playing with the marine layer. Did you see the missile go up last night from Vandenberg?
No, I didn't notice it.
I heard it.
8:55.
I missed it. Yeah.
It was one of Elon's Starlink. It launched 51 satellites, arced up from Vandenberg. Very dramatic. I did not see the rocket come back down. Maybe he didn't use one of his retrievable rockets or reusable rockets.
Yeah, he did. It's like 100 miles down south where it was located. Where it
landed?
Yeah, well, of course, I still love you boat or whatever.
Oh, he picked it up at sea. Okay.
Yeah.
What was that? I still love you boat.
Of course, I still love you is the name of the
That's
boat.
the name of one of his boats. He has a couple other ones with clever names too, but I forgot what they are.
What a yo-yo. And then he launches a Tesla into space.
Well, he's got a slight amount of Asperger's, so he thinks a little differently than we do. So,
Unless you have Asperger's too, so.
No, he actually mentioned that.
Yeah.
On Saturday Night Live. So
yes.
Well, I heard yesterday that the Virgin Galactic guy, that his flight was way offline. Something went wrong.
They've grounded his spaceship too until they figure out why that was.
Yeah, he was well off, I heard. So wasn't that successful?
No, he was flying in airspace he was not allowed to be in.
Oh,
Yeah, but he flew first, so that went to him.
You flew highest, I guess.
No, Bezos went higher.
Yeah, Bezos was before him. He had to
Oh,
be
yeah.
before him.
Yeah.
But then there's some contest to that too, as to whether he was really in space or not.
Yeah.
So,
I don't think he was. I think it's got to be 60 miles or above.
So what's going to go on tomorrow? Who's going up in space tomorrow?
4 civilians on a Dragon capsule. They're going to orbit.
They're going to do an orbit or two.
They're going to do three days in space.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Who's doing this?
Elon, SpaceX.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they've got their new spacesuits. They've got their new dome of glass on the front of their re-entry vehicle, so they can look out and see us the vista.
Oh man. Well, I think he's light years ahead of these other guys. They're just, he's already delivering supplies to the ISS.
I think the other ones are playing politics and lawyer tricks.
Yeah, they're trying to slow him down.
That's right.
Yeah, I didn't even know he was going up. I didn't even know he's going up tomorrow.
Oh, he's not.
Yeah, he's got
He's
4.
smarter than that.
The picture down in the lower left of your share, those are the astronauts that are going up there.
Oh, okay.
And
This guy,
And up there
they're raising $200 million for St. Jude's Research Hospital, and this guy's a billionaire, I guess. Started some company doing credit card payments, and he put in $100 million, and he already was into aviation, and he actually flies fighter jets, even though he's a civilian. There's someplace he flies fighter jets, and he does it with other guys in formation and stuff. So he's pretty talented, this guy.
he likes doing macho rides on MiGs.
Boy.
Take off.
Boy, oh boy.
Yeah. And the gal on the right is a cancer survivor. So each one of them has a theme. And the African American is sort of like, what is it? A success or something like that.
Well, this lady's a physician's assistant or something. She's the medic.
But she survived cancer at St. Jude's when she was a kid, and she's back working there again.
So what time tomorrow? Anybody know? I think it's in the evening time, isn't it? I think it's in the evening. Wednesday, September 14th. I don't want to do that.
You can bet they don't use Windows software on that spaceship.
So 8 o'clock Eastern time, 5 o'clock our time.
And it's going from Florida?
That's a good question.
I think it is.
Think so.
Yeah, because Boca Chica is probably a little too iffy with all that rain. Knowing Elon, if he had one place where he couldn't do it, he probably had a spare one waiting at the other at the ready.
Wow.
That guy can churn out rocket engines, and ULA can't get any rocket engines from their source.
Where's their source is in Russia?
It's a Russian design, yeah.
I thought they're going to have a special window on this thing. I don't see it.
Yeah.
The cupola.
Yeah, it's on the very nose.
Oh, it is. Okay, there. Yeah. Up there. Whoa. That would be pretty wild.
So it's going to be protected when it goes back down with the normal thermal abatement.
So it's like a bubble up there, huh? Wow.
Yeah.
That window won't be facing down, it'll be facing up, right?
Well, it depends which way you tip the spacecraft.
Huh. So there's that little bubble right there, right?
Well, the one you show down below that to the right, that's in the ISS. That's the cupola in the ISS.
Oh,
Okay.
that one.
This other one looks like the one they're putting on the front of the thing that's going up tomorrow.
It's
Yeah,
pretty
September
amazing.
15th, it says.
So that must be, what kind of glass are they using for that?
I don't know.
Well, if it's facing down, it better be some pretty heat tolerant.
Well, they got the heat shield.
Yeah.
So the heat shield will go over that when they re-enter.
I
Right.
bet you
And they-
it's,
Yeah, when they re-enter, this part is up.
yeah,
Okay.
I bet you that it's probably multi-layer, designed to take micrometeorite hits,
Yeah.
because otherwise it doesn't make sense.
Ooh. Ooh, boy.
Are you saying there could be a hailstorm in space?
Paint chip or some other foobar. I mean, the space shuttle is known to have plenty of small dings from junk left up there by other spacecraft.
Pretty amazing.
I finally got a good shot of my 24 millimeter shot right here of this one was centered on Sadr Cygni, which is right there. You can see the Sadr region. This is about 47 frames with a 24 millimeter lens at f4. It's a f1.4 Rinconen lens. And I felt it came out fairly well. This is about the best I've done. I've been able to get.
Is this 6 panels, 6 overlapping frames?
No, this is one 24
picture.
millimeter image right here.
Wow.
So it's 47 frames is what I did when on the stack. And in this particular case, what I did was I had a mask that went over a lot of the stuff, and there was a large structure part to that. In the large structure part, I softened that mask a lot. And so basically it's Unsharp masking. So what you do is you mask the stars, and then you bring the nebula out with, let's say, a Kurz transformation. And then you can do some local histogram equalization, which also brings out more contrast. Then you flip the mask and you do the same. You bring the stars up that point, and then you also are bringing up this other nebulosity that has been covered by the Unsharp masking. And it has a very soft, subtle effect to the brightness of the image. So you can get a pretty good, you can see the Sadr region right here. You see the North American nebula. That's IC 1396 over there. Let me see here. This right here, there's the veil. That's the western veil there. That's the eastern veil there. Pickering's triangle is here. You can pick out stuff like, for example, over here, Bernard Z. That's Bernard Z right there. So if you go all the way over here, you can start to get into the bubble nebula area over here, and that guy right there. So that's basically, now for the
It's amazing that,
Mosaic,
hey
I'm
Dick,
sorry.
it's amazing that all those stars just seem separate from each other, such fine points. And
well, how that's done is with masking. So the mask covers up every individual star that I can is covered by that mask. Okay. And there are 3 masks that I make. So you have, and basically it's arbitrary. Okay. So you're saying I got a small bin to put stars in, I got a medium-sized bin, and I have a large-sized bin. Okay, and the large size is for the large structure, and that also includes some of the larger star clouds and things like that. So the reason for doing that is that you can operate on each one of those masks in its own unique way. In other words, if I soften something, I can soften it differently for each one of those three sized masks, and that's what I do. The other thing that you can do is that what I do is I use a size discriminator. I could probably bring it up here. I could show you some of this stuff here, but maybe we should, it'll take a while because I got to come into PixInsight to do it. But what I do is I have this size discriminator is called the Multiscale Linear Transform. And basically I set it up to have 8 levels of size discrimination. And if you take the low number, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So if you take 1 and 2, that's the small structure size. You go 3 through 5, and that's your medium size. 6 through 8 are your large, and then you always have a remainder. You just kill the remainder. Okay. So then what I do is on the small stars, there's a bias setting that you can set. And I up the bias on the second level, and I found that what that does is it does something called popping the stars. It takes the smallest image star that you can possibly get, and it makes it brighter. And so then when you flip the mask, you see, and you bring out the stars, well, then you can get each one of these guys to come out very individually in its own brightness and color. Now, what I do to bring out more color is instead of just doing like one stretch of the image, I do a mask stretch before I do any curves transformations. And the reason for that is it's a very subtle stretch, and it preserves the colors of the stars better when you do that. So then you can start doing your curves transformation or curves transformations with a mask in place, so you don't ruin the star brightness and things like that. And so you can preserve that color. That's why the colors of the stars seem to preserve themselves fairly well. So if you want to know, that's what happens with the imaging being really small like that. I think the best thing to do right now is maybe to stop that. But you know, it's amazing that you can see things like the veil. I mean, I can see it from here. I can see, at least I can see the eastern veil right there. And I could never get that kind of clarity before without the tilt mount, because the tilt mount locks that camera to that guide star night to night, so that film plane doesn't change. And I think that's really important when you get distorted lenses like this, the fisheye effect. You got to lock it in. You can't just dithering, and I don't think it's going to fly. Not with that kind of lens. You can maybe get away with it with longer focal length, but with a short focal length lens like that, and you start to change the perspective of that lens, you're going to have some problems. And that's what I've had. I've had it to the point where there'd be no stars in a region, because when it tries to stack everything, the stars are so misplaced. Another thing about this image here, I was able to plate solve the entire image. Okay, and that's very, very rare with these kind of short focal length, wide field shots to actually get a plate solve. So, because I did photometric color cal, and in order to do that, you have to plate solve the image. So, and it stacked this thing so far. I only used a 500 star alignment on the stack. I didn't even do distortion correction, which takes a lot longer. It sometimes gets in an endless loop. So the technique is there, and that's one of the reasons why the stars are so clear. The nebula is there, and I'm super pleased with how it came out.
Yeah, that's an outstanding image.
Thank you.
So Dick, did you say 500 stars were used for the alignment?
The alignment, yeah, and that's amazing in itself, because I mean, you literally, in an image like this, I would say that you have hundreds of thousands of stars. Okay, and so to use 500 stars and get that good of a stack
you got to have everything dialed in real tight. I mean, if you're moving that camera in relationship to that guide scope, you're screwed. My personal opinion. I've been there, done this, and you got, hey, how come there's no stars over here? You get that stuff, and it's just like that.
Okay, Dick.
Uh-huh.
Dick, for basics for me, when you were talking about masks, I obviously am learning that's a digital mask. It's not a physical mask.
Absolutely.
So you're allowing the numbers 1 through 8. Okay, so the larger ones are like 7 and 8. So those are the larger stars that you're seeing. So
yeah. Uh-huh.
So what I'm wondering is that when you're masking these, it's only, for some reason, the digital is only allowing a certain size star through. Is that what's happening?
I'm going to show you. I'm going to pull it up, but it's going to take a while because I got to load PixInsight up. Now let me try and do that.
See, the way my brain is understanding this is it's kind of like sifting sand, and you're having different meshes that are allowing
exactly like it's like grading material like a miner would do to get gold. Okay, you're going through and you're sifting out all of the stuff, and you're getting those stars that you just want. See?
Yeah.
So let me see if I'll load the tilt mount up. The tilt mount doesn't take as long as the Mosaic. I haven't even got to the Mosaic yet, and that's a whole other story. What I was going to say about the Mosaic is the whole concept behind doing range compression didn't seem to work, and I had artifacts on it, and the only thing that I've got to work with is this thing called feathering, and what it does is it softens up the edges of so many.
Oh,
edges.
yeah.
And so, but man, the problem with that is that then you just run into something else, and I don't know. I'm still kind of like, trying to get I've got one now. I managed to get a merged Mosaic out of it. That's pretty good, but it still has some slight artifacting in it. So that right there is a problem I've got to work on right now. Now I'm bringing it up, right? I'm bringing up that Sadr Cygni right now with the tilt mount right there. And like I said, it takes a little while to read the stuff in. And I didn't want to load it up in advance. The other one takes even longer because there's so much support files and stuff to that whole thing. But I really liked finding that out, that I've been screwing around with this for a long time. And I thought, you got your camera and you mount it on your single tripod screw, and if it moves a little bit, so what? It'll just it'll figure it out. And now I found out that no, in fact, you do not want to do that because of the fact that you have this fisheye effect. That's a problem. So I'm still loading it.
Wow.
It takes a while. These files, they're like 64-bit floating point files, some of them, the image files. So they're huge. You can't even get anything to really read them other than, let's say some special software or something like that. So
wow.
What I do, all my images that I do in 16-bit TIFF is my, because it's the most compatible stuff. The thing I didn't like about Photoshop was it seemed like everything was 8-bit. Now, I don't know if that's changed or not. Is that still the same case, or is anybody using Photoshop anymore?
Yeah, I use that.
Yeah. And so with this, at least I've got the higher bit structure to it, but I don't know.
I have an ancient copy of, not copy, but I have an ancient downloadable version of Photoshop that's way back, but it's good enough for me to work with.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. Now let me get you over here. Oh no. Yeah, it's taking forever to swap. Oh, here we go. All right, share screen. And here we are.
Okay. Let me get this guy down here. See if I can show you what's going on here. All right. Now, this is what I processed. Now, let me see if I could take and let's see here. Okay, so here are the masks. This one right here, that's the 3 to 5. That's the large structure mask right there. So that's your 6 to 8, 6 to 8.
Okay.
And then
it only lets those that light through. That's really amazing.
Yeah, and then here's your 1 to 2. You know, though I was telling you. So let me show you the transform here. Okay. This is it right here. All right, so default comes up. It's a starlit transform. You got 4 layers. So immediately what I do is I put in 8. I found 8 layers is pretty good for most star structure. You fall somewhere in that. Most of the time, you're going to fall within 1 to, let's say, 5.
What program is this?
This PixInsight.
Okay.
So when I was going through and I was telling you now what you can do. So what you would do for, let's say, 1 to 2, that mask, is you would go, let's get rid of him, 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 and get rid of him. Okay. And then on the second level, I found that if you kick that bias up to 3, you pop the stars. I mean, in other words, every smallest little freaking tiny star that you have on that image is going to come up. So then for the 3 to 5, so I would put, say 0.3 in there. Then I would go back and I'll do the 3 to 5, and I'll just go like that, and then transform that, and it'll give you that guy. And then I go to 7. Let's see, 3 to 5, and then 6 to 8 is the next guy size up. So this one here is, put that guy away here. This is your 6 to 8, okay? And you see how everything is kind of like all blurry?
Yeah, yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. That's an unsharp mask. Okay, it's really blurred. So once I get those masks from that transform, those are still colors. So I have to grayscale them. So I grayscale them. And then what I do is I use this function right here. It's called convolution. So now convolution is going to get you a point spread like a star. And you can set that value with a standard deviation operator right here. Now, for example, when I do the 1 to 2 stars and I convolve them, it's a 0.8 setting. You see 0.8 standard deviation right there. So you get kind of like, there's your little pattern right there. Well, for this guy right here, I think I use like 32, maybe something like that. See? So it's all blurry. See how blurry that is?
Yeah.
See? So that's what I do. That's what I do to soften the effects, because otherwise you'll get edge effects and you'll get all kinds of artifacting because of that right there. So
wow.
now,
how do you know how to do all that stuff?
Well, you got to learn. I mean, I don't know.
It's the old trial and success method.
You got a lot of trial and error. This stuff right here, this technique with the binning, I don't know anybody that knows how to do it. There's nothing special about it. See, now what you do, how do you combine all these masks?
Right.
Okay, well, what you do is you take and you go PixelMath, okay? And you take this guy right here and you go, I want to take the maximum of any of those 3 masks. Okay, so you put a max operator in there and you go down to your expression editor here and you can stick your cursor right there and you go of 1 to 2, comma, 3 to 5, comma, 6 to 8. That's going to give you a mask. That's going to give you a mask that's going to be
the maximum of any of those 3 masks right there. See, and then you have to set your destination. You set your destination down here, create a new image, and put in whatever name you is. Well, when you do that, then you get this. That's combined. That's what the mask. That's what the mask looks like when everything is put together. It looks like that. So when you want to apply this mask, okay, let's see if we can get some of this stuff put away here. Let me see here. Get him out of here and get him out of here. All right, so now we've got our mask here. Let's see if we can get, I don't know if I've got, that's all nights, gray, 2 nights integration. We'll do 2 nights integration. Let me see if I can do, there's 2 nights integration, let's say, and I wanted to apply this mask. And now I don't know if this is gonna work. Let's see, get you here. And then if I wanna apply the mask, I bring it over here and then it's applied. Okay, so let me get this up here so we can see it here. Okay, so all the regions that are red are masked. All the regions that are, you know, the regular gray you can see through are masked. Now, if I want to invert the mask, I just go like that. It's a Control-Shift-I. Now you can see now what's going on here is just the stars are masked. Okay, now you can see I missed a few in here. Some of them are not all red, but you can see I got a heck of a lot of them. Ooh, those are all the stars that I got. So the mask was probably, well, and then this is the other thing too, is that this isn't exactly the image that I applied this mask to. I took an earlier image, see? So it's quite possible that the masking is actually better on the one that I took, but since I used that one as a processing, I don't have a copy of it anymore. So what I do is I run the mask like this, and I do a curves transformation, which this is after I've done the mask stretch. So you've stretched it so far to a point, okay? But what you're doing to try to do here is with that mask stretch is preserve the star colors, because it doesn't stretch it all the way. That's why most people don't use it, is because they don't like it because it doesn't stretch it enough. I love it because it does just that. And then I can put a mask on sooner and keep those stars from bloating too much. So what I do here is because of doing that, the very first thing that I do is do a curves transformation in this situation here to bring out the nebula. So minus the stars, there's no star, all the stars are covered. And then I do local histogram equalization. That makes the contrast greater. When you have small changes in contrast, it intensifies those changes. So you get nice rifting and so forth and all that. Then I reverse that mask and I bring the stars up, because if you don't bring the stars up, then you're just going to get raccoons. You know, they're going to be like holes in there. So you bring those up until you fill in the stars, and then I did a histogram equalization on that too as well, because some of this masking and so forth, you want to try to get the rifting and so forth that's going on there. When you're doing Unsharp masking, I would recommend that you do that. You do some kind of contrast casting, because that's the whole purpose of doing Unsharp masking in the first place. So that's kind of how that was done there. Is there anything else that am I missing something that you guys wanted to go into?
It sounds like PixInsight is pretty amazing. I see that on the PixInsight website, there's a lot of software tutorials or YouTube tutorials that you can do. And so that might be a good way to go to all their videos they have on how to learn it.
Absolutely. I would highly recommend Keller too. Inside PixInsight, it's a good book. He has a very basic knowledge of just about every aspect that you can do with it. So it's a worthwhile
book to buy and purchase and so forth. There's a newer version of it too. I was been thinking about getting it myself. So, anyhow, that's kind of what I got for that. And then the mosaicing, that's a whole nother story. Oh boy. I'll tell you one thing right now. I bit off a big one on that mosaic.
That's way over my head.
I tell you, well, it's just that I just have to fiddle around with it so much and try something, and then you got to go through the whole iteration thing, and 3 or 4 minutes later, well, that didn't work. Now you got to go try something else.
So as usual, you want to save your original file and then maybe copy it and then work off of that and save it as you go, so you don't get.
I always save as I go. I save almost every time I do an operation, I save. Now I didn't save that time. I think I still got it up. But if I'm playing around like what I was doing with you guys there and bringing in different stuff, then I just kill the program, see, because it'll just be the last project that I save. So, but yeah.
Well,
Very good.
It's a nice package.
It's interesting as hell, I'll tell you that. What is that PixInsight? Did that come with a camera or?
No, you have to buy it separately. It's a computer program that you have to download.
It's just the software.
Yeah, pay for.
Yeah, you can use it with any camera system or anything like that.
Yeah.
This is just processing.
Yeah.
But you can actually you can do pre-processing too. You can stack.
Will it run Mac and Windows, or is it Ubuntu? What is it?
It is actually a Unix-based program. So when you run it on a Windows system, you're going to have to run it through a Unix core. When you load it up, I've forgotten what the heck they use for their core. So it's either that or you need to get a Unix-based system.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and that can cause some issues. For example, printing. And if you had a Unix system, you could print right out of PixInsight. If you don't have one, then you can't. They had it working for a while, but it got broken in one of the, when they.
Well, there's one. Well, you just had it up there, Tom. I think it said something like it's a Linux system.
Yeah, it's Linux.
It actually said Microsoft Windows can be used as well.
Yeah, you can. So it uses a core. It's a Ripley's. I think it's a Ripley's core. Is what it uses. Yeah.
There it is. There.
No, they're ports. Yeah, ports of the main development. But they recommend.
But see, that can cause problems too, because, like, for example, the printer and so forth, and the way that it interfaces with that printer is really OS dependent. So when you start to screw around with things like that, they couldn't get a stable printing platform, which is not a huge concern. You can always, export it out of there.
So Dick, which operating system are you using the software on?
Well, I'm on Windows.
Okay.
Windows 10. I hate it. I hate Windows 10.
I'm in need of a computer. Like I said, I use this iPad all the time, but my old Windows is still using XP. I need a new computer eventually, but I'm really trying to figure out what I'm going to do for the stuff I want to do with the mount I've got. Well, I probably won't even do that. I might just start snapping some pictures of the moon and just start there. But like I said, I was talking to Henk a little bit during the week. I think I drove him nuts, but I was telling him about this mount I have, a Takahashi mount, which is an EM10. And that particular mount was upgradable to use a Tema Junior go-to mount. So you could send it back down to Texas Nautical and he was going to convert it by, I think, putting servo motors and some kind of setting circles on it and change it over. But that kit is no longer available. And this is kind of where Henk said, well, why don't you try OnStep? And I, not knowing too much, I think I drove him crazy with 1,000 questions and stopped. And I just started looking into it. But this one here that you're seeing, this is the link I sent to Tom. This mount here is very much like the mount I have. I think it's an NJP, JPN. I don't know what it is. But it's very, very similar to what I have. And apparently what you have to do is, like, if this is so reminiscent of what Henk did on his scope with the gear, the wheels with the teeth in it, and then that running on the motors. So
Right.
even though I think that the mount I have, the EMT mount has stepper motors, I don't think, after seeing this, I don't think I can use those motors. I think I have to kind of get rid of it and put all new these wheels on it with the gears and stepper motors. And then this became an issue where I listened to you guys before talking about the Arduinos, and I'm not. I think that board is an Arduino board, and I'm unclear whether you. I mean, I know my mount has an ST4 port, so that's good. I could probably run that to a computer, or is the Arduino a separate kind of computer all on its own? And if that's the case, then I think those run off of like an Android, and I don't have an Android, so I'm not up to speed on it, is what I'm saying. I'm still very unclear on it. But basically, that setup there is kind of reminds me of what Henk had hit on what he put on his G11 mount.
Yeah. So yeah, well, OnStep has a lot of features. I actually just ordered one. There's a guy named George something. George Cushing, and he makes those Arduino, those OnStep controllers, and he sells one for $40. It's pretty full featured. It also has an SD4 port and so on, and I ordered one just to see what it is.
Henk, I couldn't find him. Should I just put George Cushing and then it's
I think it's if you go to the Los Mandy board, he's on there, and he's also on the OnStep board.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, if you search for that, then you'll probably find him.
Okay.
Anyway, so but there was actually it was what mount was it? It was a Takahashi mount, right? It didn't.
Yeah, mine was an EM10. And
right. So on their wiki, they have, and I think I forwarded that link to you.
Yes.
They have all kinds of examples for mount conversions, and there were two Takahashis, but then it's not the kind that you have. But one conversion was kind of nice, so they totally you have to get rid of whatever is in there, and it was just reused. So they put a new OnStep controller in the same cavity and made a nice cover for it and all that kind of stuff. And
that's what I had a feeling. It was called an NJP or JNP but it's very similar to the EM11. It's really similar to the EM11, which mine is like.
Right.
So it's very similar.
So if the easy part is actually, I think, just installing one of those OnStep controllers, and then you have to decide how you want to control it. So I'm not too picky, and what I do is I'm controlling it from an Android, actually from the Raspberry Pi desktop, basically, right? So I can log onto it through a desktop or through an Android, but it's not particularly convenient. So if you just want to pick up a hand controller and move the scope around, that's not the right interface. It's just it is very good if you want to do astrophotography and you want to do plate solving and all this kind of stuff. But I don't think you're going to be dying to do that. So you need so for OnStep there are separate hand control boxes, and there are also interfaces for cell phones. So I can control the mount through a Bluetooth interface from my Android cell phone. But there's also a Wi-Fi interface, and they have a web server. I've never used that, but people online seem to like that very much. So I think you can probably get by with using a cell phone to control your scope. Your OnStep.
An iPhone?
Probably. Well, the guy who develops the software has an Android, so
yeah,
I'm pretty sure
you have to have an Android.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know if it's available for iPhone.
Yeah. Yeah.
If
I'm gonna look
not,
more into it.
not, then you have to actually also build the hand control box, and I've never done that. So I mean, I've kept my on-step business as simple as possible. Just one controller that controls the motors, and for anything else, I prefer to use ECOS from the Raspberry Pi and do most of my stuff with that. So anyway, that's the scoop.
I
Yeah.
think for an Android phone, Tim, that I have maybe a couple of Android phones that I've over the past few years that I've no longer used, but you could probably pick one up pretty cheap and use the Bluetooth off an Android, and
Oh, okay.
you could download. How you don't download the program to that phone if it's not connected to the cell service, I don't know, but there's a lot of
Wi-Fi.
Android phones out there for the taking.
I
I
think you just
think
do it through Wi-Fi.
Yeah,
It'll pick up Wi-Fi.
if it's not, yeah, but getting the program loaded on the phone would be, I'm not sure.
Yeah, let me check. It's probably on the store, but I'm not. It was a simple download. If it were difficult, then I would have remembered. So it's easy to get. But I
Yeah.
presume it's just simply on the Play Store, on the what do you call it, the Google Play Store.
Oh yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, anyway, that I appreciate it, Henk. I didn't mean to drive it crazy with all the questions, but
Yeah.
I'm starting in the middle of a fog and walking into a fog.
Well,
So
if there's no other way to fix it, then this would be an option. And you know, if you're into this kind of stuff, then it's kind of fun, and I can help you with some of that. But I'm not sure about the hand controller. That's something that you'll have to figure out yourself.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, you know, with Takahashi, his stuff, when you went from, the reason I didn't get it right at the very beginning, you know, his go-to mount, was because he just nickels and dimes you to death. I mean, everything he's got is expensive. The
Yeah.
counterweights were expensive.
Mhm.
And you know, so yeah, that's the 11. And what I have was the non-go-to version. And one of the guys down at OPT says, you know what, you can do a hell of a lot with you can do a hell of a lot with the mount the way you have it right now. You don't even need the go-to. You just have your setting circles are on there. You can run the thing, find the target you want, and just run it and see how it goes. And for what I'm going to be doing, it's probably just fine.
Does
For
it
what
track?
you guys are doing, there's just a lot more to it.
Does it track?
Yeah.
So it has a motor on it, and then it tracks.
Yeah, it has a motor, it tracks, and it tracks
Okay.
in two different, a lunar rate
And if
and
you have
then
an
a star rate.
SD4 port, if you have an SD4 port, then you can also auto guide. So when I started out with my G11, it was a G11S actually. That's the manual, well, half manual. You use the setting circles to find your target, and then then you can use the tracking motor and the SD4 interface for auto guiding.
And the SG4 connects to a laptop?
Yeah, so every time you auto guide, you need a piece of software that analyzes the image. So the auto guider sends images to the desktop, and the desktop has a program that needs to track those stars. So it has to look at the image and find the stars and draw, figure out how
I
much
see.
that kind of stuff.
So I
So
have an old Windows machine that I can take out and just trash. I don't care what happens to it. So that was actually one of the stories. I said it was a long story. My son actually took that computer and partitioned it, and half of it was Windows and the other half was Ubuntu. And somewhere in one of the workshops, when there was a guy that worked at Microsoft there, and who's now gone, Dimitri. And Dimitri said, "Oh yeah, you can take the partition away. Be careful though." And he wrote out lines of a script that I was supposed to enter in. I lost it. So what I did one day is I just decided to take the partition away, and there was a warning: be sure that you don't get the startup, kernel or whatever it is, and get rid of that. Well, I did.
Oh,
So I got the blue screen, and I went all over Santa Barbara looking for guys that could help me fix it. No one would. So I dug in, and I think I got this disk on my other computer. I think it's called Hiram's boot disk, and it's just fabulous. It's just filled with programs to help you do different things with computers when you're in trouble. So I actually recovered that startup phase of the Windows and got everything running again. I was really, really proud of that. Took about 4 hours, but I did it. But I think I'm at the point where I don't want to suffer with the old XP anymore. I think I need to step into the present. So I know, Tom, you were recommending looking for a solid the solid drive.
Solid state hard drives are great for booting up really quick.
Yeah, I think I have
They're not just like having a tablet. You know, a tablet just comes right on. So you put a solid state hard drive in your laptop, your desktop, and just they come right on.
Yeah, I'm going to look into it. I don't know. I was looking at a Dell computer, but my son was saying stay away from them. They're, you know, there's other things out there that are really small and easy, and that's all you need. But I don't know. I hear you guys when you're doing your astrophotography, you have huge storage. I mean, you've got to have just hundreds and hundreds of gigabytes, you know, and terabytes.
You're going to have external storage. There's just no other way. I mean,
yeah,
I've got 10 terabytes of network accessible storage. So that's what I'm using right now. And like I said, last year I went through 1.6 terabytes. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Do you keep your subs?
Yeah, I keep everything.
Yeah, well, that's the reason.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, I'm not going to deny it. You know,
I throw all my subs away. Once it's stacked, then I'm done with it. And
you're just
I
done
have
with
500,
it. Yeah.
500 gigabyte, and it's more than enough.
You know,
really?
My issue with it is that you never know. You may want to go back and redo something and do it in a different way. And so I always kind of try to keep everything that I can and go from there. So,
Yeah, everything I've thrown out, I've regretted throwing out because I remember it and I try to go back and find it and it's not there.
Yeah.
Well, and not only that, what PixInsight does is it makes copies of everything too. See,
Oh, God.
So yeah, it even goes through more crap.
Those copies I don't copy, I don't save.
Yeah.
Costco has 5 terabyte drives for a little over $100. So
Really?
yes, they're the slow type, but you know the idea is you use the fast type for immediate stuff and the slow stuff for archival properties.
Mm-hmm.
I have a nice 2 terabyte memory,
that's neat.
solid state.
Huh.
Wow.
I use.
Now does that?
Terabyte? Good.
It's 2 terabytes.
Now
solid state.
how do you access that? Is that like with the USB or?
Yeah, it's got a USB-C port on one
Okay.
side.
That's neat.
And I do that to an A that goes into my laptop. And it's
Wow.
from Samsung.
It should be going through a USB 3 port of some sorts for high speed.
Yeah, for the speed. Okay. I think I've got one.
That's another thing. I only have USB 2.
Yeah, I've got
This
that.
thing is
On
ancient.
my too. It's all for you.
I think you're in the market for a new computer. Yeah, I've got.
Well, I'm telling you, I'm so envious of what you guys do. They're just the stuff I see you guys do is just absolutely incredible to me. It's just mind bending. But I'm definitely going to start on the moon because that's something I can even do that with my 10-inch the Daub, no tracking. Just I have to tell you that I had trouble putting a regular Rebel Canon camera on that because the focus when I tried focusing it, I could only travel in so far. I needed to travel in about another 1/4 of an inch to come to focus. And I called all over the place. And finally somebody said, no, there's stuff out there. You got some extension tubes that's going to work for you. And I've got them in the closet sitting there, just waiting to take out some night in the back patio and just get the moon up and go after it again. I know I have the right combination,
No,
but I can't remember what it was.
It's not extension tubes, Tim. That's
I would think.
you need the opposite. You need a negative extension.
Yeah,
tube.
yeah, negative extension. That's what I was saying.
Yeah. So what you
moving
do,
mirror up.
what you can
Yeah.
do is you can either
That's
use
what
a-
I do. I have an extra set of holes at the back of my Newtonians.
You can push the mirror up with screws. I've done that, and that helps. You can also go use a mirrorless DSLR. That will also take it closer. So yeah.
Oh, really?
Or you can get a bigger sensor, and it'll The back.
The mirrorless cameras are fabulous, but expensive. But there's probably older versions now that are, they're available.
Yeah.
But no,
the obsession to
I somehow got it going. So it would. I somehow got it going.
A coma corrector may also help, because I know that if I use a coma corrector, it pushes out the focus relative to the coma corrector.
Yeah, you gain 15% in the focal ratio. Yeah.
There's something I'm going to go look, and I'm going to dig it out. Maybe not tomorrow, but I'm going to be digging that thing out and looking at it, because I got the combination to work. And it wasn't an extension, Henk. It wasn't that. It was something else that I got on it. And
well, this is a very interesting conversation, but I'm prepping out here. I'm going to leave I'll see you guys next week.
All right, Jerry.
See you later.
See you, Jerry. Yeah. So anyway, just one little bit of information. Today, I finally finished my guitar. It's done. I just did the final sanding on it tonight. I put a 1st and 6th string on it just to check the height of the string over the 1st fret and the 12th fret to find out where I was at. And I had to shorten the saddle down right at the height on the east, the 1st string, right down to the top of the bridge. So I made a few errors. You know what? At least it's not under the bridge.
Did you play it? Can you play it? And
I just tuned them up just a little bit because I wanted to check the intonation. And from what I can tell, the intonation, the pitch on it's going to be really good.
Oh, that's
so
great.
I'm really stoked. What I'm afraid of though is when I get the full tension on the neck, it might pull them up a little bit further, because I'm absolutely as far down on my bridge as I can go adjusting it. And there's no way that I want to take all the frets out and playing down the bridge again. No way. It's staying the way it is. But
Do you have a chromatic tuner? Do you have a chromatic tuner?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Great.
There's a point where you reach. I don't want to bore you guys. There's a point where you tap the wood, and you can actually, with another guitar, you can find the pitch of the wood. And I'm at a G sharp, and you really want what you really want to be at is an F sharp. Why? I'm not exactly sure, but so I'm one full interval above that, and I'm going with what I got.
Yeah.
To lower it, I think you got to sand the shit out of it. Now, I'm stopping where I am. First guitar, I'm really stoked. I really am. I'm really.
I
stoked.
would be.
Yeah, it's fun.
That's an amazing feat.
Well, to tune it up today just for a little bit and to pluck the string and to get a sound out of it, I was going like, wow.
Yeah.
It's like looking through your first scope that you made a mirror for.
Yeah. Did I ever tell you about that, Mike? I think I did, where I took there's that wheel, the timing belt. See that?
Oh.
That looks like Hank's thing right there.
I think this guy is. Oh, that is Henk.
Oh,
That is Henk.
Yeah.
You're
you
muted,
sharing
Henk.
that,
You're
Nick?
muted. You're muted, Henk.
Thank you. So yeah, I was just talking with Tom before this thing started, and I took it out, and well, first thing I noticed is that the motors were working in the wrong direction, because I had flipped the motors because of the timing belt. So I had to fix the firmware to run it. And after that, it worked fine actually. So if I look at the there should also be at the bottom, there should be an image of the ECOS window, I think, maybe, well, maybe not. But there's a bullseye window in ECOS that shows you how tight the stars are when you guide, and it was definitely tighter than before. So I got about 0.7 arc seconds RMS. So I'm happy with that. Anyway, yeah, there's a lot of people that are fixing up their mounts with spring-loaded worms and whatnot. That's the one that I ordered, by the way, Tim. So if you ever wanted to try that, so it's got 2 Ethernet ports. That's for the motors. There's an ST4 port. That's the black thing to the left, I think, and that thing in the middle. That's a Wi-Fi unit. So that's actually a WeMOS R1D1. It's a standalone computer that you put on that board. And those are the two stepper drivers. They are TMC 2130s, I believe. That's the kind that I have. I don't know what else is on there. It's probably, yeah. So, but yeah, that's pretty cool stuff.
The stepper motors are on the board. There's something for the stepper motors.
Well,
Those
okay,
right
just the connectors. That's all it is. And yeah, those
Okay.
two, the stepper drivers. Yeah, those two.
Okay.
Yeah, and so this is two boards. We're looking at the top board. That's the CNC 3 shield. Underneath it is what they call a WeMOS. Let's say an Arduino clone. That's the one that I use as well.
Oh.
And it's got a power connector there. The thing to the lower left, and the other one is a USB. Is it USB-B or something? USB. Well, one of those big honking USB connectors for development.
Those little USBs, the little tiny, the little tiny guys.
No, not the micro or the mini. This is the big one. This for development. It's a pretty sturdy connector.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but that's a fairly compact unit, and you know, if you got your TAC and you can't get it going anymore, and yeah, but you said that your TAC is still functional, right? I mean, you can still track with it. So you probably don't want to
completely.
Yeah, in that case, maybe you don't want to take it apart. I don't know what you want to do, but
I want to play with it for a while. You know, Henk, I've had that thing for a long time, and I've only taken it out. I've never taken it out to a star party because you know the kids grab them and spin them around, and you know I'd rather take it up like when we used to go to the gun club, and I had it up there a couple of times. Really runs nice.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
I can tell you one thing about the talk mounts that I do not like is the little control box on the side of the mount. The board inside is spongy. It's not mounted securely. It's mounted kind of spongy. So when you put any kind of connector to it, you feel like you're breaking the board. It's really lousy. And talking to with Art down at Texas Nautical, he said that is one of the worst things Takahashi ever did, because he just mounts these boards inside and they're kind of like on just floating inside. It's a bad connector.
Okay.
But I appreciate that. That's just seeing that. I'm gonna play with this thing until I can no longer use it. Then I'm gonna go that direction.
That's merge right there. So I got a couple of artifacts down here, little pinches. They're not too bad, but I had to feather the crap out of this thing. I got a feathering radius of 150, and every time you run the thing, you got to go through about 4 or 5 minutes worth of freaking time before you can get it. But that's the result of 2 frames being mosaic together, and they kind of join in this area here. But the problem is that with this feathering is you can see that you're getting just a little bit of wavelet issues here with those stars. It's not too bad, but it is bad, you know, and I'm going to go with it. And I think that with processing, I'll probably be able to get rid of some of that. But that's basically
that cluster inside that
this here,
the nebula. Yeah, right in the in the right.
There's a cluster here too, and this is in the C214, and I don't know what this one is here. I'm guessing it's part of that NGC 7842 complex.
I tried finding it. I couldn't find it. It wouldn't come up like in Sky Safari. So what I'm going to do is dig out some of the paper.
Or like go on Sinbad maybe. Sinbad you can zoom in on Sinbad. Sometimes you can find some stuff like this. So I haven't done anything else with it at this point. This is just all still linear. I've screen stretched it just so you can see it, and I haven't cropped it. As you can see, this is just after merge mosaic right here.
Now, the one to our right. What is that again, please?
The one to the right. This one here. This is C214. That's Cedarblad. Cedarblad, I think, is the name of the discoverer. And there's a few of these seed type objects that I think that this gentleman, astronomer, discovered.
So it's CB214?
CED, Cedarblad. Cedar, like a cedar tree. And then Blad, BLAD. Cedarblad 214.
Okay, great. Okay,
Yeah.
that's because I'll find that. And what I didn't see earlier when you zoomed that up, there's a little to upper left there. Look at that. Look at that little cluster in there.
Oh, the one in the upper left,
Yeah, yeah.
that one there.
No, back in
Oh.
that 214.
Oh, in 214, yeah, 214. You're
Right
talking
there.
about that. Yeah, that's pretty as heck, man. That's some
Yeah.
real pretty. That's a real pretty cluster. I got that pretty good with the 10-inch. You know, you guys saw that one.
Yeah.
I got that one really good. It was nice. I like that guy.
Well,
Hey, guys, I gotta go.
Yeah,
too.
me too. I
I
got
sure
you.
appreciate the help. And Henk, I'm sorry I drove you crazy during the week, but I'm not going anywhere unless I ask. So I got to ask questions.
All right.
So, but thanks for the help.
Thank you,
All right.
guys. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Good work, guys. Really good work.
Talk to you later, Tim.
Bye-bye.